year doing honors after this? Okay. I'll keep reminding you about the honors. Right. Evening, everyone. So just to say, this is the assignment prep. It is a tough one. I looked at the assignment. It's a bit of a nasty one. There's not much in the actual case study, so you might have to look at some additional reading. But in this way, if you join me for honors, it's 25% extra. How's it goodness? It's 25% extra in the assignment immediately. Right, so let's look at the assignment itself. Just a couple of things to highlight in terms of doing this. So some of this is not a heck of a lot of marks, but I think the reality is every bit counts. Right, so in terms of this case study there, so please start with your cover page. So we require a cover page, then an introduction. For me, an introduction does three things. It grabs my attention, it gives me a reason to read further, and it gives me a roadmap in terms of what you intend doing in the assignment. In terms of this bit here, please don't use body as a heading. I've never seen body as a heading. Rather just do questions answered or something like that. And you'll see the three questions that are there, 30 marks each. And then your conclusion essentially ties the entire document together in a single paragraph. Right, your references, I think it's obvious that you have to reference. Try and use peer-reviewed references, so no nonsense like Indeed and Business Balls and those other silly references. I think if you are going to use references from any of the provided documentation that they suggest you look at, remember just to reference those. In terms of the other 10%, so we've got 90, you get 10% for those three elements. Please pay attention to the report structure. And I think this is important because you'll see these kinds of rubrics also appear in the actual exam when we get to the exam. So in terms of the structure, this is for your introduction and your conclusion, decent writing, logical flow, etc. Yeah, just a bit of a grammar check if you can, and a spell check. And then the tone, I think it is supposed to be quite formal. So just remember, it's a report that you're writing for Discovery. And then, yeah, did you stick to the assignment instructions? And then obviously, have you evidenced wider reading? If you do all of that, it's 10%, and 10% is the difference between 70 and 80 and 80 and 90 and more importantly, 40 and 50. Right, so that's the first bit to take notice of. Remember, it's all in the assignment that was provided. So there is the case study and the bits and pieces in the case study. Yeah, extra bits to look at. I don't know how much you need to look at extra. I think that would depend on really just what we're trying to achieve. You'll also see, if you look on ARC, I loaded a whole bunch of additional textbooks if you want to reference those. I hope you have found those on ARC. They are there somewhere. Right, and then just other bits and pieces there. So the first question, it's about inside out, outside in. So remember, there are elements that you have to attend to. So please do yourself a favor. Every time you finish one of these, just do a bit of a highlight, maybe print it out and highlight that you've done it, because you've got to take every bit of this question into consideration in your answer. Right, so the first one, inside out, outside in. So we are looking at learning unit 1, and you are looking at slides 27 to, you just get a rough idea, 34. So slides 27 to 34. If somebody can actually just let us know in the chat what the page numbers in the textbook are, that would be fantastic. Just remember, guys, trust my slides. And then remember, there are also additional textbooks that are available. So if we look at the inside out perspective, you'll remember from our lectures last week or the week before, my apologies, is that the inside out perspective, the essence of that approach is that it's about what the organization has internally, and they use that to create their magic. So it's about having great resources, it's about having great competencies, great skill sets. In terms of Google, for example, wonderful algorithms, wonderful hardware, software, etc. So it is essentially those bits and pieces that make the organization unique and stand out from the crowd. So from a strategic stretch perspective, is we base our strategies on this wonderful combination of resources and capabilities and dynamic capabilities that we have. In terms of the link that we try and create, is to try and stretch our resources to impress whatever happens in the external environment, whether it's our competitors, and also align ourselves with the competitors, and also it's the kind of things that customers would get very excited about. Other bits and pieces, thank you so much for that, Sindiswa. Other bits and pieces that we need to remember is that it's based on the theory of the resource-based view. The resource-based view argues that an organization's ability to compete depends on its resources, its capabilities, and those dynamic capabilities that allow the organization to reinvent itself always. So these resources would act as the essence of your competitive advantage. And then what we use these resources for, we create value creating strategies. And these value creating strategies are those that impress our customers, that allow us to deal with whatever is happening in terms of pestle. And it also allows us to deal with those international issues that are constantly impacting the organization. If we look more, it comes from the fact that we have these dynamic capabilities. So the fact that you have resources is fantastic. The fact that you have capabilities that allow you to maximize what you can get out of those resources is absolutely fantastic. But in reality, it is about reinventing yourself as well. So we talk about these dynamic capabilities, the ability to remain relevant, not just at a point in time, but at a variety of points in time into the future. One of the things that we need to look at is this concept of the Rio framework, which argues that if you have valuable resources, which essentially allow you to create better products, deliver better services, and stand out from the crowd in terms of your competitors, when those are rare, whether they are skill sets, whether they are hardware, software, whether it's a powerful brand, whether it is your systems, your procedures, etc. And then also they cannot be imitated by your competitors. And they are unique. And these are those things that just make us special. This is the stuff that lives inside the organization, that is so specific to the organization that very few other organizations in the industry have actually got any chance when it comes to these resources. And it's allowed us to create this unique value. And then obviously value would be what your strategic managers add to the organization. And ultimately, it's about impressing your customers and beating your competitors to the punch. If we look at the rest of the inside out perspective, I think we need to remember that these values are important. These values generally appear in a value statement, and that value statement, if it's written properly, will tell each of your stakeholders how you intend to look after their interests. The kind of additional values that we have in organizations are those that suggest an organization is light on its feet. It is about flexibility. It is about the time taken between the idea and that idea to be turned into a product or service, and that product or service to appear on a shelf somewhere. it is about innovation, and I think when we think of, and maybe I should integrate this a little bit more, but when we think of discovery, they are significant in terms of innovation. They constantly come up with new ideas, and Discovery Health was so unique in terms of any other comparable medical aid. In terms of the insurance, very different to other insurances out there. And then also integrating those systems together. So generally, what would happen is if you're on Discovery Health, you would also have Discovery Insurance, and you would be part of Discovery Bank. Collaboration, and it is not just offering a single element within the package, but offering the entire package. And then obviously, when we are able to create light on their feet organizations that are agile, that essentially have innovative business models, those are the things that give you a competitive advantage. And then the key here is to also be very aware of what your customers want and what your competitors are doing, although that is sometimes run the risk of limiting what the organization does, but you need to know whether what you're doing in terms of products and services are what is needed out there. And then just the rest of it, because we have volatility in the environment, we need to have dynamic capabilities. Those dynamic capabilities allow us to reinvent ourselves. And then also this idea of these capabilities. Threshold capabilities are those that essentially are the non-negotiables within an environment. So for Discovery, the non-negotiables would be that we have to adhere to the legislation that guides whatever we do in terms of our operations. Those core and distinctive capabilities, those are the ones that appear in your mission statement. Those are the ones that will provide you with a competitive advantage. And those are the things that other competitors don't have. In terms of Discovery, just something as silly as a brand name can be added into that. And as I said a number of times already, dynamic capabilities allow you to reinvent yourself. Guys, and then just what we do is we stretch our resources. Internally, we create strategy, so 1 + 1 = 3. But in terms of externally, it is our value chain, and it's also what we end up providing as products and services to our customers. So if I had to look at Discovery and their approach and their uniqueness and how they innovate all the time, I think there is a really strong suggestion that this might be an inside-out organization. So I would suggest that you write inside out. However, if you can argue that it's an outside-in organization that bases their strategies on essentially watching what happens in the external environment and then making sure that once they understand what happens in the competitive environment, they would then ensure that they have the right resources and capabilities in place, you're going to have to spend a lot of time arguing it because it suggests very strongly that it is an outside, let me correct that, an inside-out organization. If you can argue outside in, obviously there it is about your intelligence systems, checking what is happening in the external environment, and then you finding the resources to capitalize in terms of creating products and services. Okay, I've spoken a hell of a lot there. So let's have a look at whether I've addressed each of the elements in the question. Okay, yeah, take a position on which perspective. So, yeah, I'll be honest with you, it's going to be very difficult for you to argue that it's outside in. And then obviously go and look at some of the stuff they had suggested. And you can have a look at the textbooks I shared with you. And then if they want to strengthen their strategic fit, this is where you need to spend a bit of time thinking about what you would do from a management perspective, the kind of things that you would recommend looking at their current situation. Okay, let me stop talking there. Any questions at this point? The key here, guys, is the balance between theory and application. and making sure that the theory you use is appropriate to the application bits that you are giving us in your explanations. So it's that balance between theory and application. Okay, I'm going to keep quiet now. Any comments, any concerns, any questions? Okay, can I continue? Thanks, Mikhail. Right, let's look at the second one there. Okay, 500 to 600 words. Guys, stick with those word counts, okay? Please have a glance at this because this is what I'm going to use to mark you. And if you use that rubric, you should easily be able to get a sense of what you should get in terms of your submission. So please make sure that you look at every single sub-element and just tick box those to make sure that you've addressed every bit that is required in the assignment. This is important. And you can also see the difference. There you have significant integration, a really real critical discussion. Here you are essentially just listing the theory and listing the application. This is not where you want to be. Here it's when you're completely clueless. Okay. And I think we've got enough information. Go, Sindiswa.
Like, so can you hear me?
Yeah, of course I can.
All right. I just wanted to clarify because on the textbook, the whole idea of the learning unit was saying that strategy is linked, and like the link between inside out and outside in is like what brings together the strategy. So in
No,
the
I
assignment, we
think
don't.
strategy, I think it is about remaining aligned with the external environment. So what we do with strategy is that the strategy is the go between what we have inside the organization, and our strategy essentially allows us to keep in step with the external environment. If you want to argue an inside and outside in and inside out both, um, yeah, you can do that. But please remember, in my mind, the inside out predominates this argument. Okay. Sorry, Cindy. So continue.
Okay, so it's just better safer to just
Nothing
explain
is safer,
explain
boy. It
one
depends on
side.
what you justify. If you can justify, remember, I'm making a suggestion. So if you justify, you can argue outside in, but you'd have to have a very strong argument to convince that it is outside in. But I'm not saying it's impossible.
All right, thank you, sir. Think I
Okay, boy.
got.
I don't know if it made sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think let me not bite more than I can chew. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, boy. Okay, goodness, I would like to answer the assignment in a way that will make you mark well. You mentioned some references that you prefer in a. Oh, it's you want peer-reviewed references. You should by now, guys, in third year know what peer. No, don't worry about sounding silly. You should know what peer-reviewed references are. Those are journal articles, etc. A non-peer-reviewed reference would be, and this is the one that a lot of people default to, is Indeed.com. It's one of those that people go to, or what I see students do. Hold on a second. Is they do this? They go inside out perspective, perspective, strategic management. Oh my goodness me, what am I doing? Okay, and then there's the AI, and then they go copy out of the AI. This is frustrating me now. Why the heck is that there? Um, Active. Okay, let's just do that. And then they'll go to, I nearly said a bad word there, a rubbishy thing like Indeed, because Indeed is always at the top, and then they go and reference Indeed. That I have a huge issue with. That's not peer reviewed. These are opinions, and they might be accurate, but they're opinions. Okay, they're not peer reviewed. Other academics haven't looked at it. What are some of the others? Oh, yeah, another one I'll see. Seidel, it's not peer reviewed. You can see some. Oh, gosh, yes, I've seen this one before. It is not peer reviewed. And if you're going to reference Studico, I promise you, I'm going to come to your house and beat you with a stick. That makes sense, guys. So I would rather just say, if you're going to do that, is type in scholarly articles. Okay, and there are some journal articles. Now, I have no issue with these. I have no issue with those. Those are peer reviewed. I can tell you now they're peer reviewed. Okay, or they're from a textbook. Yeah, that's peer reviewed. So if you're going to do that, type in those two words, and you can do it with anything you search, guys, when you want academic articles. Yeah, well, everyone makes the mistake, but you asked the question. Goodness, you asked the question. Okay, and you can see here. So I'd be a little bit reluctant. McKinsey is not. ResearchGate is fine. Yeah, those are fine. Taylor France is online, or you can just go and look at the EBSCOhost stuff. Okay, but peer reviewed. Remember, when you look at EBSCOhost, limit the search to peer reviewed. My prediction, though, and yeah, this is from doing this 1,000 years already, is that somebody here and more than one person will reference Indeed. So what is the agreement? If someone references Indeed, what can I do other than write horrible things about them and point and laugh? Can I take marks off if I see Indeed? Who thinks they're going to be silly enough to put Indeed into this? Beat us. Beat us. I need to get off work. Okay, we'll send some people around. Oh my gosh, if you put Investopedia, I actually will literally drive to your house and electrocute you. I'll tase the living daylights out of you. Sindiswa will become Cindy. And I mean Cindy as a girl's name. If you bloody well put Investopedia or any other pedia, I'm going to lose my mind completely. I promise you, I will be bloody grim. Yeah. And remember, I have got a taser. Well, I'll shoot you with a paintball gun. Okay, everyone okay with that? Sorry, I can't say that word. If I saw Investopedia, I'm going to lose my mind. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so you'll use that for application. So, for Pete's sake, somebody is messing around here. What is going on? Okay, so you use the discovery stuff for application. I would hope you would use it for application. Guys, the one thing you want to avoid me putting on your assignment is something like be careful to state opinion as fact. So if you're going to say something academically, if you're going to say something academically, then it has to be supported by some sort of academic reference. Be careful to just throw opinions around that is not supported. Okay. Can I go to question 2 now that I've scared Sindiswa into becoming Cindy? Okay. Right. And remember here, guys, have a glance at this. You know what is here. That's the application part. I honestly stick this into my rubric and then, oh, Sindiswa, you're on thin ice, but you're on thin ice. Okay, let's look at the second one. Okay, I'm not completely happy with this, but we'll discuss it. So the second one is on the mission statement. So there is a mission statement that they say belongs to Discovery. So we need a couple of things here. So it is Learning Unit 2. Have I not shared the screen? Awful. Do I need to redo that, or will you be able to follow just by what I've said? You good? Sorry, guys. Holy nonsense. That was useless. Do you want me to redo it? I'll do a separate recording if you want. That was stupid. My apologies. Okay, thanks, Mikhail. The other classes will get this. We got the rest. Thank you. That's what I need to hear. Right. So Discovery's mission is to do that. Right. And then it gives us a couple of things. Sorry, it is not Learning Unit 2. It is Learning Unit 3. Come on. It is Learning Unit 3, Strategic Direction. And we are moving to where it says mission statement, formulating a mission statement. Okay, so yeah, that's about it. So if we look at the first question there, brief introduction explaining the purpose of a mission statement. Guys, the one thing we know about a mission statement is that it indicates the actual reason for an organization's existence. You might want to go and find just something to support that opinion that I've shared. So just go look in the other textbooks. I'm not sure what is in our textbook, but there are other textbooks. It's a very small part, but the purpose of a mission statement is to tell us what the organization's reason for existence is. It is the second objective after our vision. So in terms of the analysis of our mission statement, so there are a couple of things here. So you'll see here that these are the non-negotiables that a good mission statement has. So it has these questions. Why is this organization in business? Please discuss each of these elements. What are our economic goals? And we'll carry on. Operating philosophy, it gives us a clear sense. I'll come back to this. Shame Christelle is struggling to stay on. What are our core competencies and competitive advantage, and then also customers do we serve, and then obviously how do we look at our responsibilities to our stakeholders. So if we look very quickly, why is the organization in business? I think the first one is that you need to see what their product or service is. Now remember, Volkswagen does not sell cars. Volkswagen sells opportunities to explore the world. Netflix don't sell movies. Netflix sells escape from the hardships of the real world. So good mission statements don't actually tell you what the product is. It suggests what that product can do for you. So if we have a glance at that, yeah, so it gives us a pretty good idea. Enhance and protect lives, financial linked, and wellness solutions is a wonderful way of not saying we sell insurance. Okay. The second one, primary market. So it will tell us who our primary market is. I'm not going to go do the analysis, but I suppose the primary market would be South Africa, insofar as I can think of Discovery. Principal technology is there. Are there online technologies? Now, some of these may not appear in the actual mission statement. What are economic goals? The one thing I need to say about those, it is bad taste to put profits or profitability into your economic goals. It is rather the suggestion of success, because customers and employees can't identify with profits. Obviously, shareholders that can. But when you have a properly written mission statement, the mission statement will speak equally to every single one of your stakeholders. So please, this profitability one, I'm not comfortable with. Okay. And then in terms of this here, we look at our operating philosophy. So it's our aspirations, it's how we view ourselves, how we want the world to see us, what our core values are, what our philosophical priorities are. It's about doing good, it's about being ethical, those kinds of things. And then our core competencies, again, it is something in financial and wellness services. And then when we look at this, yeah, what customers do we serve? Remember, you'll see in the discussion that it is both the sort of upper and medium and lower income customers. And then also in there, can they infer what we intend to do in terms of looking after the interests of our stakeholders? Guys, can I make a suggestion so that we perhaps make it simpler for you? Can we do something like this? Let me just insert here, insert a table. I think 4 columns should be enough. And then just go with the first one, Q1, and you'll obviously type out okay, no, let me do it this way so that I put headings in there so I'm not that dumb. Questions. Okay, excerpt. So you'll indicate the question, and then here you'll mention the sub questions, and then you'll have the excerpt from the mission statement, and here you'll have your analysis, whether they address it properly or not. And where there is no excerpt, you'll just put not applicable. Are you guys okay with doing it as a table? I think it'll make your lives a lot easier if we do it as a table. So if we go in terms of, let's just go to the slides here. The first one here, so let's just go back to that one. Why is the organization in business? And then you can say basic product and service. Well, let me do this and just cheat it a little bit. Copy. Oh, you idiot. Sorry. And there you go, see product and service, basic product stroke service. Service, and then you can take from there. In this instance, it is, where's the question? It's that there. Behavior link. I don't know whether that's going to copy. I doubt it. And then you shove that in there. You shove that in there. Okay. And you do analysis. So it addresses it quite well. Would you prefer to do it that way? Everyone's gone dead quiet. This is definitely easier. This is definitely easier. Okay. So that's the way we're going to do it. You can set up your own tables. Can I assume that it's okay that you'll set up your own tables? Or you can set up your own tables. Come, guys. Right, let's look at, let me just close this one because it's going to irritate me. Boom shakalaka. Right. So the first one, you'll have your analysis, guys, and then, yeah, in terms of linking it back to what their strategic intent is. So your strategic intent, so to add the theory to what you need to answer. So we're going to go slightly back in here. So in terms of the strategic intent, strategic intent is based and taken from the approach that Japanese firms adopt. And Japanese firms will argue that everything is about competition. And everything they do is use every resource to create competition internally so that there's learning and that they really have maximum performance. And then once they've perfected that internally, they get into the ring with their competitors with the intention of constantly beating their competitors, providing better products, better services, etc. It is this thing that drives every single element in the organization, obsession of winning. So the Japanese, in terms of their strategic intent, is every time they take a decision, every time they allocate a resource, every time they appoint a new person, they essentially are doing it because we want to be winners. So strategic intent is that obsession. And there's a whole range of things that go hand in hand with it. But everyone in the organization has to be obsessed with winning. And then they have a structure where individuals can actually add value in terms of their own skills and capabilities. And then they change and update how the organization operates. And then in terms of budgets and getting budgets, it is about those winners inside the organization. And then you only launch a product or service if you are certain it's going to be a winner in the market. Okay, strategic intent. Where is this? Right. Sustainability focus. Guys, so sustainability focus, the discussion on sustainability is in the next, in Learning Unit 2. My apologies, and now I've gone and going to mess that up because I set that up there. So sustainability, you can have a glance at this yourself, but sustainability is doing business in a way that you will have a business in the future. So it's profits now, but done in a way that will have profits in the future. I apologize for this silly example, but if Sappi or Mondi are harvesting trees in a particular area, they are planting saplings in another area. So it's profits now, but done in a way that you'll have profits in the future. So sustainability is about making sure that an organization is around for the longer periods. Okay. So the focus is to win in the short term, but doing it in a way that it doesn't compromise your long term. Okay. So I need to be here. Oh, my goodness me. So that's for the next one. So don't worry about that, guys. And also whether there is some elements of the shared value model. So the shared value model is this here. It's where you create benefits for the organization in terms of profits and profitability and what the shareholders expect. And then also making sure that you look after the interests of your stakeholders. I'm not going to discuss more because the next question is specifically around this specific aspect. And then, yeah, if there are recommendations for improving the mission statement, remember, these recommendations would be based on the analysis in the table. Let me say that again. These recommendations would be based on the analysis in the table. And then in terms of the last bit there, you've got to create your own mission statement that includes your recommendations. Okay. So I know, Sindiswa, you were panicked, but this is not difficult. This is just, yeah, you need to spend a bit of time doing it. Okay. This is not rocket science. If it was rocket science, I wouldn't be teaching it. Okay. There is your rubric. Remember, again, I use that rubric. Right. Now, the last one, the idea of shared value and inclusive business. So here we are looking at Learning Unit 2, and we're looking at slides 16 to 20. Learning Unit 2, slides 16 to 20. Right. So when we look at shared value and the idea of inclusive business, sorry, let's just look at the question again so that I don't mess that up. Okay, so here is what you need to do. Introduce the purpose of shared value and inclusive business, and then obviously define those using credible academic sources. And remember the textbooks that I had shared. And then you'll look at their real shared value model. There is quite a bit of the discussion in the case study on this. And then also, how do they create shared value? And then what can they do to enhance inclusivity? You'll see that in the case study, there's mention of that as well. And then what can they do to improve the shared value inclusive models? Okay. So let's look at shared value. So I think the first thing is that we've had to rethink what it means to be successful from a strategic perspective. So sustainability, as I said, it's business now, but done in a way that you'll have a business in future. The new definition of competitive advantage is that of wealth creation for stakeholders. And if that is your definition of competitive advantage, you need to make sure that you create wealth for your stakeholders. I think that is essential. So, this new definition of what it means to have strategic, sustainable, competitive advantage as wealth creation for stakeholders, that to me essentially ties directly to this here. Okay, so if we look at shared value, and as I said just now, this is where an organization does business in a way that it benefits as well as every single one of its stakeholders benefit. And then, yeah, inclusive business is where we look at those individuals that might have previously been excluded from our sort of market or supply chain. So it's bringing in customers that previously we might not have paid attention to, or bringing in suppliers that previously might not have been part of our supply chain. So in terms of the idea of shared value, there are three elements there: redefining productivity, looking at cluster development, and then reconceiving products and markets. Not all three may apply in the instance of discovery, but I'll go through each of those. So the first one, redefining productivity in the supply chain. I think there are a variety of things that will determine where we get our input materials from. So what happens is that uh, a firm that is really good at this kind of shared value and redefining its productivity in its supply chain is one that is highly efficient. So the silly example is that you would rather have your suppliers in a specific region so that you travel once with the truck and that you pick up from each of your suppliers and you travel once back so that you don't have the back and forth that normally goes with inefficient supply chains. And then you also look at what you can do in terms of your organization itself. So Woolworths, for example, has energy efficient lighting. They also have solar panels, and they are starting to use electric trucks. And I think key in terms of this, in particular with affirmative action and triple BEE, is that you start developing local suppliers so that you also don't have to travel those extra kilometers, but also bringing in new people into your supply chain. The second one, cluster development, and this takes the previous point a bit further. This is about logistical efficiency. So, cluster development is where you have customers that pivot around a specific area. So, again, you need to deliver once and travel once, for example, or you have your suppliers in a single area. And making sure that you work with local authorities, etc., so that they also help in terms of sustaining that particular cluster. And then the last one there, reconceiving products and markets. I think this is where we start looking at people who were previously excluded from our, in particular, customer base. And it is the examples I've given there: smartphones for the poor. And the thing of a smartphone for a poor person is that it's a lot more than just a phone. It's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to shop online. It's an opportunity to apply for jobs. So it is there to look out for individuals previously we might not have considered to be part of our customer base. And the key thing is this term here, goodness me, bottom of the pyramid. So bottom of the pyramid talks about the poorest of the poor, but it's not about exploiting naive individuals. It is rather about making sure that we provide individuals with the means to break poverty cycles. So the example of the smartphone or installing internet in a particular area. And that's all we need there. Sorry, that's what we need there. So that gives you that second question. That gives you that, guys. Okay. Any questions, any comments, any concerns? Go for it, Christelle. Christelle, and
Hi.
thank you so much again for organizing us.
You're welcome. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, success. I was struggling with my headset. Sorry.
I
Question.
saw that. Shame, man.
The requirements for the academic resources, it says 2 academic resources. Is that in addition to our handbook or is
In addition to your
textbook?
textbook. In
Textbook. So
addition
it's
to your
textbooks
textbook, yeah.
plus 2.
2 resources and peer-reviewed sources or other textbooks. So remember, I chucked a whole bunch of textbooks at you guys anyway. Okay.
Also have previous year's textbooks that also help, but thank you.
Yeah. Don't use the previous edition, though. Other textbooks that you've had, that will be fine. Okay. Right. Anything else, guys? So I need to just clarify our view on AI. If you take this assignment and take a picture of it and shove it into an AI, and copy from the AI, I'm going to fail you. And I don't refer you because it's too much headaches and there are too many hoops to jump through. I will literally mark you as tough as I humanly can. And honestly, I'll give you 0 for things I think you've cheated at. Now, I always allow people to then argue with me and claim that they didn't use it. For me, the way you use AI is to guide your thoughts, is to get suggestions on references to use. It is to, once you've written it yourself, to put it into the AI and have it improve your writing style. I have no issue with that. But if you copy from an AI, if you take a picture of this and you simply copy and paste from the AI, guys, I'm going to fail you. It's as simple as this. This is not some AI's degree that you're doing. You're doing your own qualification. Is everyone okay with that in terms of AI use? And please remember, declare how you use it and show us where you've got the AI to do whatever it did. I'm being very strict about this, guys. This is your qualification. This is not some robot's qualification. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Any concerns?
Have we received any news